neesam izdarījuši.
And what this one attacks, what delusion this one specifically attacks,
Un tas, kam uzbruk šis pants,
is the worst attachment of all.
Ir sliktākais no
The
pieķeršanās
deepest attachment of all.
veidiem, visdziļākais.
Attachment to more than sex or drugs or anything else.
Vairāk nekā pieķeršanās seksam, narkotikām un
They
citām.
call it attachment to reputation.
Tā ir pieķeršanās pie reputācijas.
What it means is this craving to be seen as a nice person by other people.
Tā ir šī vēlme, lai mūs citi ieraudzītu
This is
kaut ko
the
labu.
deepest one inside us.
Un tas ir kaut kas ļoti dziļi mūsos.
And most of the time we don't even notice it.
Un lielākajā daļā laikā mēs to pat
We
nepamanām.
spend our lives worried about what other people are thinking of me.
Mēs visu dzīvi pavadām domājot, ko citi domās par mani.
All the time.
Visu laiku.
You know, walk down the street and you laugh too loud.
Staigājot pa
You look
ielas.
around to see if anybody saw you. You know.
Smējamies pēkšņi pārāk skaļi un pārējāmies apkārtējiem.
All the time you worry about what your husband thinks.
Atkal,
Your mummy, your daddy.
vai par vīru.
They out there somewhere, the world, you know.
Ka viņi kaut kur ir tur ārā.
This is usually what keeps us so paralyzed.
Un tas ir tas, kas saglabā mūs tik paralizēti.
Fear of what other people think.
Bailes par to, ko citi padomās.
Because we're desperate to have other people think we're nice.
Jo mēs esam izmisuši, lai citi domātu labi
It's
lietas
so
par mums.
primordial, so subtle in us, we honestly don't notice it most of the time. It's so natural.
Tas ir tik dziļi, dabiski, smalki mūsos, ka mēs to pat nepamanām.
So this extreme type of example
Un šajā galējā piemērā
is an incredible practice.
tā ir ļoti neticama praksa.
I mean, that doesn't mean you have to go to them
Un nav pat jādodas.
and say, you're right, I am mean.
Un
You don't have to say
jāsaka,
that. It's in your own mind.
nav jāsaka, es tev piekrītu, es esmu nelabs.
Accept the blame.
Nelabs, vienkārši
Accept the
jāpieņem
criticism.
savā prātā šī kritika.
Accept the defeat.
Jāpieņem zaudējums.
Give the victory to them.
Un jāsniedz uzvaru
It's
viņiem.
an unbelievable practice.
Tā ir neticama praksa.
Sounds cute again, like these words, so simple to say.
Atkal izklausās ļoti jauki.
It's just unbelievable.
Un vienkārši, bet tas ir neticami.
There's all this wonderful story I always like to tell.
Ir viens stāsts, ko man vienmēr patīk stāstīt.
This friends of mine in Sydney are Buddhists, they're at a party.
Man draugi Sidnejā.
And my friend Renata was there and George, they're students of Latvia.Riga.Ganden.Ven.
Lamas opas studenti un draugi.
Renata and George.
Renāta un Džordžs ir balīti.
And this one fellow who had the party, I never know his name, but I think let's call him John.
Tad, teiksim, vēl kāds biedrs, kur nosauksim par John.
And he was telling everybody about how his beautiful brand new BMW just got scratched right down the side of the doors.
Un viņš visiem stāstīja par to, kā viņa jaunais BMW ir sašvīkāts tieši
So he
par
kind of
priekšā.
just accepted and fixed it, paid the money, fixed it.
Un tad viņš paskaidroja, ka viņš vienkārši to pieņēma, samaksāja naudu,
It happened again.
un tad atkal
And he discovered it was the wacky old guy next door.
Un tad viņš atklāja, ka tas bija tas ķēnis, kas dzīvo viņam blakā.
He had no idea what the old guy thought he had done. He clearly had done nothing. But this old guy next door clearly, you know, envious, jealous, whatever it might be, you know, whatever he thought John had done to him.
Un tad Džonam nebija nejausmas, ko viņš tādēļ nodarījis tam vecajam vīram, bet, acīm redzot, tas vīrs bija ļoti greizsirdīgs.
So John said, what should I do about it?
Un Džons prasīja, ko es lai tur iesāku.
Oh, you know, someone joked and said, oh, we'll scratch his car.
Kāds pajūko un ieskrāpē viņa
Whatever.
mašīnu.
But George said, I'll tell you what Lama Zopa would do.
Bet Džordžs teica, es pateikšu, ko tev Lama Zopa teica.
He would find out what this old guy liked.
Lama Zopa uzzinātu, kas patīk šim vecajam vīram,
And he would buy him a beautiful gift,
nopirkt viņam skaistu dāvanu,
offer it to him,
piedāvāt viņam
and apologize
un atvainotos.
for whatever he'd done wrong.
Lai ko slikti arī
So-
viņš būtu izdarījis.
John thought this was great,
Džons,
which is already amazing. You
lieliski.
know. He discovered this old bloke liked golf.
Un tad viņš uzzināja, ka šim vecajam vīram patīk golfs.
So he bought him these expensive golf balls, beautifully wrapped, and a lovely gift.
Un viņš nopirka viņam dārgas golfa bumbas, ka bija skaisti
And he went
iesaimēts.
and knocked on his door,
Un pieklāja viņu,
offered
ka
him a
bija
gift,
piedāvājuši
and
viņam.
apologized for
No.
anything he'd done wrong.
Apvainojās par jebko sliktu, ko viņš bija izdarījis.
He'd done nothing,
Viņš nebija
but
neko
he
sliktu,
took the victory, you know.
bet viņš pieņēma
Offered the
zaudējumu.
victory, took the blame.
Un piedāvāja uzvaru.
So anyway, he went back to the kitchen, he had a cup of tea, he was happy, he felt like relieved and the whole thing.
Un tad viņš devās atpakaļ uz savu māju, iegāja virtuvē, izdzēra kafiju, tas
And then there
atvieglots.
was a knock on the door and this old guy comes
Un tad pie viņa durvīm pieklāja vecais
with his
vīrs
unwrapped gift,
ar šo izsaimņotu dāvanu.
beaming from ear to ear.
Starojot no augstas
And
līdz
the old guy said, this is the nicest thing anyone's done.
Un vecais vīrs teica, tā ir jaukākā
And then
lieta,
the old
ko
guy
es
said-
darījis.
Everything is forgiven.
Viss ir piedots.
Now it's not a good story. But don't you have to be brave to do that? We love to hear the story. But just think of a time. Think of you. I just drove in this nice BMW. Can you imagine? Would you think this way straight away? Give the victory to others. Offer them a gift and apologise. Too much for the mind, isn't it?
Vai tu ar savu jauko jauno BMW varētu iztēloties kaut ko tādu? Pārāk daudz, ne?
That's a perfect example.
Tas ir lielisks piemērs.
Out of envy, mistreated in.
Greizsirdības, skaudības.
Take the victory. Take the blame and offer the victory to others.
Mēs vienkārši pieņemam šo zaudējumu piedāvājumu.
And I mean, intense.
Tas ir ļoti
intensīvi. It's good to hear real stories though.
Tā kā ir labi dzirdēt īstus stāstus.
And I think there's an interesting point here actually.
Un te ir vēl viens interesants punkts.
Because, you know, we don't, in our ordinary materialist world, we don't factor in past karma. Of course, obviously we don't.
Un tā kā parastajā materiālistiskā skatījumā mēs neietveram karmu.
That's why most of the time we have no idea why good or bad things happen.
Tāpēc mums nav ne jausmas, kāpēc labas vai sliktas lietas lielākoties notiek.
That's why we call things good luck and bad luck.
Tāpēc mēs saucam to par labu vai sliktu.
Because in the materialist world we truly don't have explanations for why some guy would scratch your car for no logical reason.
Jo materiālistiskajā pasaulē mums nav labi skaidrojumi, kāpēc kāds saskrāpētu jūsu mašīnu bez acīm redzama iemesla.
But the Buddhist view would say
that
John, even though in this life he had done nothing,
būtu tāds, ka kaut arī Džons šajā dzīvē neizdarīja neko.
He's got some karmic history with this old guy next door. That's why they are next door to each other.
Viņam bija noteikta vēsture ar šo kaimiņu, tieši tāpēc viņš bija kaimiņš.
Because remember the view of karma, Buddha's view, which is a natural law, he says, that just runs the world.
Un atceramies, ka Buddhas skatījumā karma ir dabisks likums, kas valda visu pasauli.
There's nothing any sentient being experiences that hasn't come from their own past actions. There can't be such a thing.
Nav nekā tāda, ko jūtošās būtnes piedzīvo un kas nenāk no viņa iepriekšējās karmas.
Because whatever arises in your life,
jo viss, kas parādās,
it's like your garden. Whatever arises in your garden, you know, whether you remember what seed you planted or not, who cares? If it rises up, if it pops up, if it grows, hey, you must have sown the seed, baby.
Tas ir tāpat kā ar jūsu dārzu. Ja reiz tur ir kaut kāds augs, tas nozīmē, ka tur zināt jūs vai to nē, vai tur bija kaut kāda sēkla, kas ir uzdīvos.
So your life is your garden.
Un jūsu dzīve ir jūsu dārzs.
Whatever ripens in it in front of you.
Un kas, lai kas arī tur parādās.
It's such a simple point.
Tas,
Buddha says you must have planted it.
Ir pavisam vienkārši punkts. Buddha saka, jūs esat to tur iestādījuši.
I mean, you can't have this big weed grow in your garden.
Un ja tur auga liela mezāle.
And then say, you know, I didn't plant it. I didn't plant it.
Un jūs sakat, nē,
it's not possible. It's just random.
Nē, tas vienkārši parādījās.
There's no law to it. No, I didn't sow the seed. That's how we think about life.
Tas bija vienkārši tāds gadījums, nezinu, no kurienes tur parādījās.
No wonder we're all crazy. No wonder we're all crazy.
Nav brīnums, ka mēs
freaking out every minute.
Jūkam prātā.
Wondering why bad things happen.
Jūkam prātā, kāds notiek sliktas lietas.
We should also be wondering why good things happen. But we don't care about them. Just give me more, please, like I said.
Uztraukties arī par to, domāt, kāpēc notiek labas lietas, bet par to mēs neuztraucamies.
So, using this view of karma, then there's this guy scratching your car.
Ir šis vīrs, kas skrāpē.
You know in this life you've done nothing wrong.
Jūs zināt, ka šajā dzīvē jūs neesat.
But logically, if he's harming you, you must have harmed him in the past. You must have. It wouldn't happen otherwise. It's a simple logic, Buddha says.
Bet loģiski tas, ka viņš skrāpēja mašīnu šajā dzīvē, nozīmē, ka iepriekšējā dzīvē.
So knowing this is easy to accept.
Un tad zinot to, ir vieglāk to pieņemt.
There's always this amazing story always, and I find it such a typical, a classic example of this coming from the minds of Buddhists, you know.
Un tad te ir tāds labs klasisks piemērs.
In 2003, Richard Gere, you know, is a good Buddhist, he had invited His Holiness the Dalai Lama to teach in New York.
2003. gadā Ričards Girs, kurš ir labs un pazīstams budists, ielūdza
and he also organised a group of ex-prisoners, about 20 ex-former prisoners in various Americans, all of whom had practiced meditation or Buddhism in prison, to come and have a meeting together.
Sarganizēja grupu no bijušiem cietumniekiem, skaitā apmēram 20 no visas Amerikas, lai satiktos ar viņu svētību Dalai Lama.
Yeah, so you know, he'd been discussing with me whether we'd collaborate on prison work and stuff, but in the end, it didn't happen. But he invited people like me to come along who'd been working with people in prison.
Un tad viņš apsprieda ar mani iespēju sadarboties šajā cietuma projektā. Galvenajās nerealizējās, bet tik un tā mēs sarganizējām šo tikšanos.
Yeah. Anyway, it was a very moving day.
Tā bija ļoti aizkustinoša dzīve.
20 Americans, you know.
Bija 20 amerikāņi.
Black ones, white ones, Mexicans, Puerto Ricans, male ones, female ones.
Baltie, melnie, Puertorikorāņi, Puerto Rico iedzīvotāji, Meksikāņi, sievietes, vīrieši.
All of whom had been in prison, all of whom had practiced some kind of meditation or Buddhism. Buddhism.
Viņi visi bija pabijuši cietumā, bija praktizējuši kaut kādu budismu meditāciju.
Anyway, also invited were a couple of young Tibetan nuns.
Un ielūgti bija arī jaunas tibetiešu mūķenes.
Who'd also been in prison.
Kurš arī bija bijuši
for being Buddhist nuns.
Par to, ka viņas bija budismu mūķenes.
Good little girls.
Labas izskatīgas
So they were explaining, they were very quietly telling about their experiences of being tortured and sexually abused during their incarceration.
Un viņas klusi izstāstīja par to, kāda bija viņa pieredze, kad viņas cietumos bija tikuši spīdzināts, izvarots un tam līdzīgi.
So first of all, I think it was fairly clear to everybody in that room, if you could quantify suffering, that their suffering was probably more than in most everybody else's.
Un bija acīm redzams, ka īstenībā, ka viņas bija izcietušas vislielākās ciešanas, ja tās būtu iespējams izmērīt.
What was really clear to everybody was that they weren't angry.
Un kas visiem bija skaidrs un acīm redzams, ka viņas nebija dusmīgas.
And they weren't freaked out.
Un ka viņas nebija
which is how what we assume is a natural response to being tortured and sexually abused.
Un jo mēs pieņemam, ka tā būtu dusma nebija reakcija uz to, ka jūs esat spīdzināti un izvaroti.
So I think the one way of looking at this is because if you have a view that you didn't ask to get born, mummy and daddy made you, you've no idea why things are happening, everything is just good luck and bad luck. If that's your view, which for most of us it is.
Un ja mums būtu tāds skatījums, ka mēs nekā kā neesam vainīgi, mūs ir radījuši māte un tēvs, un viss notiek tā, kā tas notiek nezinām iemeslu dēļ,
then obviously the experiential response to that would be panic, fear, anger, rage, oh my God, why is this happening? You know, absolute hysteria. Look at how anybody suffers. It's like, why is this happening to me? How can this be happening? How should it? We don't know why. Half of our suffering is because we just don't know why. So the pain of it is intense, coming from that view.
Tad dabiski būtu reakcija, ka mēs būtu panikā, bailēs, dusmīgi par šo netaisnību, kas nezinu, kāpēc ar mums notiek.
Are you expressing what I'm saying? Miss Gurita has a bit of energy in her voice. Is he saying the right words?
I'm translating more than 2 hours now, but
he's giving you an excuse. You're doing a very good job, and I've been talking more than 2 hours. No, really, I'm just joking. All right, I'm very grateful for both of you. I can't believe how stupid I would look here, sitting here in front of you for 2 hours, 4 hours, without Latvian sounds coming out of your mouth. I'm most grateful. Okay. Where were we? Oh, these tortured nuns, that's right. So then they were not angry, which is already surprising for us.
Tad vispirms viņas pirmām kārtām jau nedusmojās.
So listen to the words of anger. Listen to the story that anger tells.
Tad ieklausieties, kāds ir tas stāsts, ko stāsta dusmas.
How dare you do this to me?
Kā tu uzdrošinies to izdarīt?
Why are you doing this to me?
Kāpēc to man nodari?
It should not be happening.
Es nedrīkstētu
I don't deserve this.
Es to neesmu pelnījis.
Of course, this is the view of this is what anger says, isn't it?
Un tas ir tas, ko saka dusmas.
And that's our instinctive belief.
Un tā ir mūsu instinktīva ticība.
Because we believe we are innocent victims.
Jo mēs ticam, ka mēs esam
But we don't have any view of karma.
Ka mums nav nekāds karmas uzskats.
Because we do believe mummy and daddy made me.
Jo mēs ticam, ka mūs ir radījuši māte un tēvs.
Or God made me.
Vai Dievs.
Of course, you don't want to blame God.
Un, protams, mēs nevēlamies vainot
Unless you're an Italian. Italians have the most terrible ways of abusing God. I don't know any other nationality who does it. They're wicked.
Vistrakākais veids, kā apvainot Dievs, un es nezinu nevienu citu nāciju, kuri būtu tik izsmalcināti.
One time when Lama Geshe was visiting one of his friends, Geshe Jama Gyatso, who used to be the master's program Lama, where Helmut had studied but then passed away. And Lama was in Italy in the 80s, visiting him in the hospital ward. He had an operation or something.
Kad Lama Geshe apciemoja Geshe Jama Gyatso, kas mācīja tajā institūtā, kur šobrīd mācās Helmuts, un viņš 80. gados bija kādā slimnīcā.
So it was in Italy.
And
the Italian translators, the boys in the war, were telling Lama all the terrible things all the Italian men were saying. God is a pig, they say, when things go wrong. Couldn't believe it.
Viņam bija itāļu tulki, kas tulkoja, kas notiek tajā istabā, un tur bija cilvēki, kas teica, ka Dievs ir cūka.
Anyway, anger is this rage that something should be happening to me that I don't deserve. Isn't that the energy of anger?
Dusmas ir šī netaisnības sajūta, kad ar man notiek kaut kas, tas, ko es neesmu pelnījis.
Yeah. So these nuns, having the view of karma,
bet šīm mūtnēm, tā kā viņam bija karmas
redzējums,
kas ar viņu prakšu pamatā,
their way of interpreting the world,
un tas veids, kā viņas interpretē pasauli,
they had a reason why this is happening.
viņām bija noteikts pamats, kāpēc viņas to izsaka.
They accept karma.
Restīvi viņas pieņem karmu.
So they don't get angry.
Tādējādi viņas nezinājas. Kāpēc?
A friend of mine, who was a Tibetan, who'd been tortured in Tibet and then escaped.
Viens mans draugs, kurš bija spīdzināts Tibetā un tad izbēga.
And I asked him, this is years ago, I asked him, do you ever get angry?
Un gadiem apakaļ es viņam jautāju,
and he laughed. He said, angry, what for?
Es viņam jautāju, vai tu dusmojies, un viņš atbildēja,
it's too shocking for our minds, we can't get this, you know.
Par ko gan? Tas ir pārāk
šokējoši. It really
šokējoši.
takes time to integrate this view, if one chooses to, of course.
Tas ir pārāk šokējoši, lai mēs to saprastu.
So anyway, these nuns finally said,
Un tad gal beigās šīs
I mean, they weren't angry, but they were sad, tears were coming.
Viņas nebija dusmīgas, bet viņas bija noskumušas,
And they said,
asars. Viņas teica,
of course, we had compassion for our torturers.
protams, mums bija līdzjūtība pret
Because we
mūsu
knew we had
pārdarītājiem,
harmed them in the past.
jo mēs zinājām, ka mēs esam darījuši pāri viņiem pagājušās dzīvēs.
Okay. But the same thing would apply, just to give some balance here.
Bet tas pats attiektos arī.
You know, if Guri just kind to me.
Ja Gudi ir laipni pret
You
mani,
know, I accept that.
es pieņemu to,
Because I know I must have been kind to her in the past.
jo es zinu, ka tas nozīmē, ka es esmu bijusi laipni pret
So you
viņu
rejoice
iepriekšējā
in your own virtue.
Un mēs
And
priecājamies paši
delight
par
and
savu
accept her praise, her kindness.
par likumību iepriekšējās dzīvēs, un tāpēc pieņemam to, ko viņi mums saka.
Because, as I said, I keep saying, we never think of what are the causes of good things. We don't care what causes, we just know we like it.
Jo, kā es jau to minēju, mēs neuztraucamies par to, kāpēc ar mums notiek labas lietas.
So that's giving the victory to others.
Tas nozīmē arī dot uzvaru citiem.
So what do you think about that level of compassion? What's his name again? What's your name again, Dom?
Eddies.
Who?
Eddies.
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 Eddies. So what do you think of that level of compassion, Eddies?
I don't understand this
Good.
level.
Very understandable.
I don't feel compassion
Of
for
course you
my...
don't.
Yes,
You don't even have compassion for a junkie, so you can't have compassion for a torturer. I understand it.
Es saprotu, ka tev nav līdzjūtība pret to narkomānu, tad tev dabīgi nebūs arī līdzjūtība pret pārdarītāju.
So one step at a time. That's
Tā
okay.
kā virzies vienkārši soli pa solim
It's
spriedz.
up to each one of us.
Tas ir atkarīgs no
Go.
mums pašiem.
Kā var izvairīties no kārmas, un vai var jūs kā var izvairīties?
Can we avoid karma?
So what do you, tell me what you think karma means. He thinks that's very funny. Tell me what you think it means, darling.
Pasaki, ko tev prāt nozīmē?
What's it mean, do you think, karma?
Ko
It's a
tev
very
prāt
short
nozīmē?
word for a lot of things, actually.
Jo
So
karma
maybe
ir
we should talk a
īsvārds.
bit more about it.
Īsvārds.
What do you think it means?
Tas ir kaut kas, ko mēs dabūjam atpakaļ par kaut ko iepriekš darīt.
It's something we gets back what we have done before.
That's how you usually think about it.
Jā, tas ir tas, ko mēs parasti domājam.
That's why I keep using simple examples like playing piano.
Un tāpēc es turpinu izmantot tādus vienkārši piemērus kā
The
pagājušajā.
most fundamental way to think about karma
Viss pamata veids, kā
is
domāt
it's
par
just
karmu,
this process of habituating your mind with something.
ir tas, ka karma ir vienkārši process, kurā mēs prātu iepazīstinām vai
That's it.
esam pieraduši pie kaut kādām noteiktām
There are
lietām.
other consequences, but we can go into this in more detail if you like, but that's the most fundamental thing. The word karma actually is synonymous with the word intention.
Ir daudz dažādu blakus efektu karmai, un par tiem mēs varam parunāt specifikāk vēlāk, bet karma būtībā nozīmē nodoms.
So the most basic way, the process of karma is that you habituating your mind with something.
Tas nozīmē, ka tu pieradini savu prātu pie kaut kādiem
So what would
ieradumiem.
be the obvious result of habituating your mind with music?
Kāds būtu tas dabīgais rezultāts, ka tu esi pieradinājis prātu pie mūzikas?
The most obvious result for you in your daily life. What would it produce?
Ko tas radītu ikdienas dzīvē?
It's not a tricky question, it's simple.
Tas nav slims.
What?
She doesn't know.
Come on, it'd be ridiculous. What's the consequence for you if you practice piano every day? What do you end up becoming?
Kādas ir sekas tam, ka tu praktizē klavieru
Es
spēli
palieku
katru dienu?
labs mūziķis.
She becomes a good musician.
Thank you very much.
Jā.
So that's what karma is.
Tas ir tas pats,
You
kā karma.
internalizing Bach and Mozart in your mind,
Tu padarīji Bahu un Mocartu par kaut ko
which is where the real music is it not in your mind? Your fingers don't have little brains or doing, playing piano where you sit there asleep. No, your mind has to be internalized music. Do you agree with that?
Un prāts ir tā īstā vieta, kur atrodas tā mūzika, jo, ja tavs ķermenis būtu beigts, tur nekāda mūzika neskanētu.
And then you keep practicing it with your fingers and practicing until your mind is completely familiar and your fingers are now, your body is working beautifully with your mind. Would you agree it's like that?
Tātad tu praktizē to pavirspēju līdz tavs prāts un rokas ir pilnībā sinhronizētas.
And the result is a good musician. Would you agree with that?
Un rezultāts ir labs mūzikas.
Well, that's all Buddha's saying is about everything that goes on in your mind.
Un Buddha saka, ka tas ir spēkā attiecībā uz visu, kas
that's why I keep using these ordinary examples.
Un tāpēc es turpinu izmantot šos
So what kind of person do you think you'd be producing if you were practicing compassion every day?
Un kāds cilvēks tu būtu?
What kind of person would you become?
Praktizētu līdzjūtību katru dienu, ar ko tu kļūtu?
She
would be very compassionate.
That's right, and compassion means being kind, loving and kind to others, doesn't it?
Un līdzjūtība nozīmē, ka tas mīloši un laipns.
So think of this. The Buddha would say, we're always okay, wouldn't you agree that we're doing things always in relation to sentient beings? Animals, humans, we're always connecting with each other. We're very social beings, wouldn't you think?
Mēs esam sociāls būtnes un darām savas darbības attiecībā pret citām būtnēm.
And compassion and anger play out among sentient beings, don't they?
Un izspēlējam savas dusmas un līdzjūtību attiecībā.
Would you agree with that? So, so compassion means you have empathy with others' pain and you reach out to help those others, don't you?
Līdzjūtība nozīmē, ka tev ir empātija līdzjūšana par citiem būtnēm.
So then Buddha would say you're creating a strong karmic connection, as they call it, with those particular minds.
Un Buddha saka, ka tajā gadījumā tu redz spēcīgu karmisko saiti ar tām konkrētiem būtnēm.
Which means you're going to bump into each other again.
Kas nozīmē, ka jūs atkal saskarieties.
And guess how they will think of you? Guess how they will treat you?
Uzmini, ko viņas par tevi domās.
How would they treat you?
Kā viņas pret tevi attieksies? Ja tu biji līdzjūtīga.
How?
Kā? They will also treat you with kindness.
Why?
Kāpēc? Because she was kind.
Precisely. This is the meaning of karma, darling. It's very simple, actually.
Tā ir karmas nozīme.
So stop, wait. So we keep hearing the good things.
Mēs turpinām.
We only ever ask questions about the bad things. It's quite interesting.
Saklausīt labās lietas.
When we hear the good things,
kad mēs dzirdam šīs labās
we
lietas,
kind of go, oh wow, I must have been a good person in the past. This is great.
tas nozīmē, esmu bijis labs cilvēks iepriekš.
Then it's easy to hear the bad things.
Un tad ir labi dzirdēt arī sliktās.
Because the law of botany refers to flowers and weeds.
Jo botānikas likuma attiecas kā uz labiem augiem, tā uz nezālēm.
So, but basically, the fundamental meaning of karma is it's what your mind does from moment to moment, and that programs your mind with whatever that habit is. That's really simple.
Un karma vienkārši nozīmē to, ka katru domu brīdi programmē jūs katru brīdi.
You understand?
Jā, es saprotu, ka tomēr jautājums, ja es, piemēram, tiepašai dzīvē esmu kādam kaut ko izdarījis slikti, vai arī reāli tā, ka ir pilnīgi neizbēgam, ka šajā dzīvē, tas cilvēks man attieksies un tagad nedarīs kaut ko slikti, vai es varu kaut kādā veidā to, mainīt.
Okay, if she has done something bad towards a person in her previous life, is it inevitable that in this life she will get the results?
I just gave you the example. Why are you asking? I mean, aren't you confident from the answer? I did explain. Just put it simple, Buddha's view, about the good things. So what did we just agree upon from the good things when happening? Why do you think it wouldn't be happening with the bad things too?
Par to, ko mēs runājam par labajām lietām, vai nepiekrīt, ka tas pats ir spēkā arī ar sliktajām lietām.
It's sort of like saying, if I keep being a good person, can I avoid continue to be a good person? Will I sort of become a bad person? That's like saying, if I keep playing Mozart perfectly, do you think there's a chance that I'll suddenly not know how to play? I don't think so, because it's logical.
Tas ir tāpat kā teikt, ka ja mēs labi pārzinām Mozartu un mēs tagad sākam uztraukties, kad es pēkšņi viņu vairs labi nepārzināšu, vai tur ir kāds pamats.
The second part of the question had whether she can avoid somehow the result.
No, I understand that. I'm getting there. I understand.
In relation to that.
But avoid. Okay, stop. So both. First of all, I've got to get clear what she means by avoid. You mean stop the process or sneak around it? What do you mean by avoid?
Gan, vai arī izvairīties, vai arī kaut kā tajā brīdī, kas sākās, ka es varu kaut kā, tā kā izmainīt to visu.
Can she change?
Okay, now that's a different question. Avoid means sneak around it, hope it doesn't happen, so maybe you meant to change it. Then clearly, that's a very different question. And that's perfect. But let's get clear here first.
So that's in relation to what I was
okay,
saying.
That's
basically, if you have inadvertently you've harmed someone, an action, not directly but indirectly, and you have apologized.
Sure.
But the anger that in the other person has arisen,
Sure.
and he's boiling in his anger.
I understand.
and you send metta and you try to redeem.
I understand.
And yet, you know, it's like in certain traditions, you ask someone forgiveness three times,
that's right.
and if the other person doesn't accept it, it's not longer.
I understand. Good.
Vēl cits aspekts, kā tam visam pieiet, ir, nu, teiksim, ja tu esi netieši kaitējis šai citai būtnei un no tavas puses tā kā viss tas ir beidzies, bet tā otra persona tur vārās savās dusmās, niknumā un tā kā atvainojies viņam, nu, vai tas no tavas puses tā kā ir beidzies.
Okay, so first, okay. First of all, in relation to your point, sweetheart, yes, for sure, that's called purification.
Vispirms par tavu jautājumu, jā, ir iespējams veikt attīrīšanos.
So there's two approaches to, when we understand the two causes of suffering, karma and delusions.
Kad mēs saprotam, kas ir tiešām cēloņi, karma un
there are two levels of practices.
Ir divi prakses līmeņi.
And as Lama Zopa says, the most urgent
un kā Lama Zopa saka,
is in relation to the delusions.
Pats tiešākais ir attiecībā uz
which is when the punches, when the mean thing happens.
Tad, kad notiek šī...
By the way, this is junior school.
Un tā ir
back to junior school. When the mean thing happens.
Kad notiek šī nelāga.
You're watching yourself like crazy and you'll try and avoid do something bad back with your body and speech. So you stop. At least you don't create another seed in relation to that mean thing.
Tad mēs apstādinām sevi, lai mēs neradītu jaunu sliktu sēku.
You're controlling your body, speech and mind.
Un tad mēs kontrolējam savu
you don't want to keep the ball rolling. You don't want to keep more negativity in your mind. You want to stop creating more negative karma.
Mēs nevēlamies radīt vairāk negatīvas karmas un
this is the simplest way, the hardest thing, but the most basic level of practice in your day-to-day life.
Un tas ir
junior school. Junior school.
Pamati praksa pamatskolā.
You don't respond with body, speech and mind to negativity that arises.
Ka mēs neatbildam uz šo negativitāti.
Theoretically, this is the idea.
Teorētiski tā.
So that you stop creating more negative seeds. Do our best to do that. Of course, it's very difficult, but we try our best.
Un tad cenšamies pēc labākā, kas ir mūsu spēkos, neradīt jaunas sliktas.
And this is the way of personifying the whole first level of practice.
Un tas ir veids, kā paskaidrot visu šo pirmo prakses līmeni.
Controlling our body, speech and mind.
Kontrolēt savu ķemeni un prātu.
Disciplining our body, speech and mind.
Disciplinēt to.
For our sake.
Mūsu labā.
So as not to sow more negative seeds.
Tā, lai neiesātu.
That's the most urgent level of practice. Immediate.
Tas ir pirmais tieši.
Now, in the long term, in relation to karma that has already been acted out,
un ilgtermiņā tā karma, kas jau ir radīta,
which has left seeds in our mind,
kas ir atstājis sēklas mūsu
and if our minds are beginningless, as Buddha would say,
un ja mūsu prāts ir bez sākuma, kā Buddha
which means we've had countless lives,
tas nozīmē, ka mums ir bijis
in which we've done countless negative actions,
kurā mēs esam darījuši neskatām daudz,
which have left countless negative seeds in the
kas ir
mind,
atstājuši negatīvas darbības,
which are sitting in our mind right now,
kas sēklas, kas sēk
latent,
noklusēti,
waiting for the conditions to ripen as our suffering.
Kas gaida prātā visnoteikts apstākļus, lai
So obviously, in relation to karma,
acīm redzami
we've got to weaken those seeds and pull them out before they ripen as my suffering. Very obvious.
Mums, protams, ir jāvājina un jāizravē šīs sēklas,
this is called purification.
Uzdīgs un to savas
And it's a
pratīšanas.
practical, like all this, it's a practical psychological process.
Un atkal, kā visi budismā, tas ir praktisks, psiholoģisks process.
What time are we finishing?
Oh.
Okay, and we'll go through that today and maybe we'll see how we go. So we'll go to that in a minute. Okay, so that's, I misunderstood your word avoid. Because you can't avoid. No, you can't avoid. You can't hope it goes away.
Tad es nedaudz pārpratu to tavu
But you can change it actively, consciously.
izvairīšanos, jo mēs nevaram izvairīties to vispār, bet mēs varam to aktīvi mainīt.
Now, in relation to your question.
Un atgriežoties pie tavu jautājumu.
The thing is, our job, okay, maybe this gets us, we need to discuss the purification practice because it'll answer your point.
Labi, tas varbūt noved pie tā, ka mums ir jāapspriež.
Okay, it's got 4 main steps.
Tad ir 4.
And as Lama Zopa says, we're insane not to do this practice every day.
Posmi, kas ir šajā attīrīšanās praksē, un Lama Zopa saka, mēs esam traki, mēs to neveicam.
And a really nice way to remember in English, we can call them the 4 R's.
Un labs veids, kā to atcerēties angļu valodā, mēs to varam saukt par 4 R.
Reliance,
Nožēla, paļaušanās, pretvīda
resolve.
Un apņemšanās.
So regret is already incredible.
Nožēla jau ir neticam daudz.
So one time somebody asked His Holiness, what's the difference between regret, in the way that it's understood here, and guilt?
Un tad reiz kāds uzdeva jautājumu, kāda ir starpības starp nožēlu, kā mēs to saprotam, vainas sajūtu.
You know, he said, guilt, you look in the past. And you go, oh, I did this and I did that and I did this.